heard you talk about sleeper agents before.
Yes.
What is a sleeper agent?
Yeah, the Russians are very good with sleeper agents. We Americans don't have, no other country that we know of uses sleeper agents. A sleeper agent is someone who is taken virtually from birth and trained to be of another nationality. For example, let's say you're born in Russia, and from the age of 2, they take you from your family with your family's acquiescence, and they take you to an American-style town that they've built out in the hinterland in Russia. And they teach you to speak English with an American accent. You watch American TV shows, you watch American movies, you eat American food, you get an American-style education. So I have no idea that you're not American. You speak English just like I do. You know all the same, social references that I make. You follow the Philadelphia Eagles, or the, San Francisco 49ers or whatever. And then they send you to the United States with a fake ID. What they'll do is they'll go through, I was born in 1964, so they'll go through death records from 1964 and they'll look for deaths where the person was only a day or two old. And they'll take that name and the birth date and they'll get a Social Security card with the birth date. And then they'll use the Social Security card to get you a passport, an American passport. So you come here on your American passport, everything's legit. Now your name is, Bob Smith, which was really that baby's name that died. And you get a job, let's say, as a travel agent. And you may work as a travel agent for 20 years and never hear from them. But then they'll activate you and they'll say, we want you to go take care of this target over here.
Kill him.
Yeah. Or we want you to get a job at the Defense Department and give us everything that you can steal. Whatever. There's a woman in my neighborhood who was outed as a sleeper about a year ago. She was an elementary school teacher and they grabbed her and they ended up trading her back to the Russians for 2 Americans. So they're out there. I interviewed a sleeper, a former sleeper, on my own podcast a couple of weeks ago. He was from the East German Intelligence Service, and he was raised as an American and sent to New York. He got a job, I forget doing what, like restaurant supply company or something like that. And he got married and he had a daughter. And he told me, as soon as I looked at her face the day she was born, I realized this life wasn't for me anymore. So they sent him an activation. What they do is they'll send you a radio message. And he didn't respond to it. And he told me he was on the subway one day. He's just standing there holding the strap. And this guy came up to him, and the guy grabs the strap next to him and whispers in his ear, if you don't report back, I have to kill you. And so he ran straight to the FBI field office in New York. And he said, I'm an East German sleeper, and I want to turn myself in. And he became a prolific source for the FBI.
So he was taken as a young person.
Yes.
What was his story?
Yeah, taken as a young person, sent to Russia to become American. Mm-hmm. They set him up with this phony identity. Mm-hmm. And then after he had gone through all the training, he came over here young. He was like 20 or 22 and did this for 25 years. And then he said, as soon as his daughter was born, he was like, wow, this is what life is for, not being a sleeper.
Do you think the average person listening to this conversation right now is interacting in their life at this exact moment in time with someone who is involved in espionage, spying, the CIA, or some international equivalent?
Probably not. Because they're mostly focused, foreign intelligence officers are going to be spread out all over America. If a listener of this podcast is working in a defense company, a defense contractor, anywhere in America, then my answer is yes. Yes, you're probably encountering espionage of some sort or somebody committing espionage, whether it's Russian, Chinese, or Israeli. They're the three biggest ones that go after us. In Washington, I mean, foreign spies, there could be as many as 10,000 in Washington. I remember my first wife, she was teaching ballet at a small private school, and one of the students there, they were all like 4, 5, and 6 years old. One of the students there, her father was a Belgian diplomat. And so we would sit and talk and, oh, aren't the kids talented? And, oh, this is so much fun. They look so cute in their little tutus. And then I went to work one day, and as I was walking in, he was walking in. And I said, oh, come on, Peter. And he's like, I thought you were a spy. And I said, I actually didn't think you were a spy. And he was just going for a liaison meeting. And we had a good chuckle about it. And I said, listen, don't tell anybody, right? Right. Sorry.
So I'm trying to figure out how many spies do you think there are in the United States? If you think about
foreign spies,
domestic spies, people that are basically undercover.
Including Americans, you mean?
Including Americans.
The number of CIA employees is classified. The number of CIA employees undercover is actually even more highly classified. I can give you a guesstimate.
But also, Russia, China.
Yeah, 50 to 60,000 altogether.
50 or 60,000 in the United States. Mm-hmm. So by a couple of degrees of separation, if you know 100 people.
Yeah, you're probably going to know one. Sure.
You said there's probably about 50,000 in the United States. So I've just done some quick math on my notepad here, which means that in order to know one, you'd need to meet 6,600 people.
Okay.
Because the US population is roughly 330 million people.
That's right.
And then I did some other maths and did some research, and I asked, the question I was trying to figure out is how many people does the average person meet a year? And it's roughly about 3 to 10,000 people. So, theoretically.
So the chances are good?
Every year, statistically, according to my napkin math, you're meeting one of these undercover spies. One a year.
There it is. Now, that number I gave you is, I'm lumping like all CIA people and all foreign intelligence officers in the United States.
Interesting.
But again, if you work for an American defense company, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, any of them, your chances of encountering a foreign intelligence officer are even money.
Can't you, as a spy with the United States, ask the United States to give you loads of money? Like, can't you say, oh, you really want me to go do that? Can I have $1 million? Because you're potentially giving away a lot of money to other people.
Oh my God, giving away like unlimited amounts of money.
Because your budget when you were a spy, how much was it?
After 9/11, it was unlimited.
What does that mean? It means you can basically give away as much money as you need to.
If I approach somebody and he says, I can give you this terrorist, I want 10 million. I'm like, done.
What was the most you ever gave in
10 million.
You gave someone 10 million? For what?
Abu Zubaydah.
Who's Abu Zubaydah?
We believed that Abu Zubaydah was the number 3 in Al-Qaeda. He wasn't the number 3, but he was a very bad guy. I led the raids that captured Abu Zubaydah in Pakistan, Faisalabad, Pakistan, in March of 2002. And the State Department had a $10 million reward. We ended up giving the $10 million to the Pakistani intelligence service. It wasn't
a person.
It was just really great analysis that led us to him. But there were others in the so-called war on terror who got more than 10 million and got it like within 24 hours.
Individuals?
Individuals.
How much?
One got 25 million.
Just a person?
Uh-huh. And the thing is, there's a lot of danger there. If you're a shepherd or a T-boy and you make $40 a month and all of a sudden you have $25 million, something's up.
And what was the 25 million for?
It was for a very high-ranking foreign terrorist who was brought to justice. I can't say, because it was never publicly disclosed. But what we would have to do in a situation like that is we would have to tell the source, you can't live here anymore. Pick a country, and that's going to be home from now on. And then we go to that country and say, hey, can you do us a solid? We've got this guy who, he really came through, and he's not going to be a burden on your economy.
Because he's got $25 million. Mm-hmm. Which country did he pick?
Oh, I can't tell you that. He wanted to stay in the region. He wasn't willing to move to the United States, for example. Because we're happy to take him. You're welcome to come to the United States. He's like, absolutely not.
He went to Dubai.
I would.
Yeah, with the tax code. Interesting. I think I'm, you can tell my bias from the questions that I ask about the things that fascinate me about espionage and spies. It's their understanding of human nature and what motivates us, and the psychology of humans that you can learn from spies, and the nature of human beings, I guess.
Right.
And also, I guess the other thing that really fascinates me is just, I've had so many mind-blowing moments where I've learned just how fragile the reality that I believe is. Like, I thought things were secure, and I thought they were as they are, but it just doesn't appear to be that way. There appears to be lots of secrets. And, conspiracy theorists get a hard time. But actually, the more I've done this as a job, the more I go, conspiracy theorists are right more than I expected them to be.
See, and that's an important point. I hate conspiracy theories that run amok. But a former CIA director is the one who came up with the term conspiracy theory. And it was a way for the CIA to discredit people by making them sound like crazy people, when in fact there was such a thing called MK Ultra. There was such a thing called, Operation Grasshopper or MK Chickwit, or the CIA did crazy, crazy stuff from roughly 1952 to 1975. For example, they experimented with a virus that they released in San Francisco. They waited for an unusually foggy, like heavily foggy day. They released it into the atmosphere just to see if it would make people sick. And 11 people went to the emergency room with this rare upper respiratory infection. And then they were like, high fives. Yeah, it works. And then they started experimenting with LSD. LSD was a big thing at the CIA in the early days. We were convinced, and this is where counterintelligence is important. The Chinese told us in 1951 that the Russians were using LSD to try to engineer it to be used as a mind control drug. That wasn't true. That was disinformation. The truth was the Russians had no LSD program. The Chinese did. So they tried to throw us off the scent by blaming the Russians. We panicked. And by 1952, we started this program called MK Ultra, which began by using LSD experimentally. What the CIA did was they started by dosing their own employees without telling them. Several committed suicide. One jumped out of a hotel window.
With the hope that...
Yeah, we'll just see what happens, see what they say, see how it feels, see if we can control them, see if we can plant memories that didn't actually happen. And then they decided, no, it's not a good idea to dose our own people. Let's just dose strangers out in public. So they went to San Francisco. They rented a safe house, and they hired prostitutes to go out on the street, pick up Johns, bring them back to the safe house. Johns, people who hire prostitutes, men who hire prostitutes. Dose the Johns with LSD, and just see what happens. But, I mean, these are like serious crimes you're committing against people.
Just reading about it here, it says, under Operation Midnight Climax. Interesting name. Operation Midnight Climax.
That's right.
The CIA paid sex workers to lure men to safe houses where agents drugged them and then watched them through one-way mirrors and recorded their behavior.
Exactly.
They tried to erase their personality.
Nice, huh?
The goal was often to break and rebuild the human mind. In 1973, the CIA director ordered mass destruction of the MKUltra files. What we know comes from accidentally surviving documents, meaning this is a sanitized version.
That day, he testified before the church committee. The church committee specifically told him, do not destroy any documents. He went back that afternoon to the CIA and said, destroy everything.
Why?
Because it was damning. They were experimenting on American citizens. They were experimenting by spreading diseases in American cities. And so he was held in contempt of Congress. He was fined like $150. And about 15% of the documents were overlooked and survived. We'll never know exactly what happened under MKUltra.
As we sit here now, there's people on the streets of Iran that are protesting the leadership there. And the CIA are often associated with some of the coups going back to the 1950s.
Yes.
And other countries toppling elected leaders to protect US interests.
Yes.
Do you think the CIA are involved in Iran at the moment?
Probably. I think the Israelis are heavily involved in Iran at the moment. I'll tell you why, for a couple of reasons, more than a couple. Number one, in the so-called 12-day war that we saw last year, the Israelis were absolutely masterful in the way they went after the Iranian leadership. What they did was they focused on recruiting Afghan refugees. Iran was home to more than 2 million Afghan refugees. And as essentially illegal aliens, they could not avail themselves of medical care, the welfare system. They're starving, right? They only eat if they can beg for enough to buy food. And so the Israelis went to these people very discreetly and said, hey, we'll give you $200 a month if you tell us where the generals live. In which apartments do the generals live? Where do the nuclear scientists live? The Israelis killed the top 12 generals across the entire Iranian military and killed almost every Iranian nuclear scientist. Because what they were able to do was to recruit these Afghans to not just tell them where they were living, where the generals and the scientists were living, but what their cell phone numbers were. And so the Israelis were able to geolocate the cell phones, and then that's where you fire the missile. They killed all of them. And then after the Iranians finally realized it's the cell phones, they ordered that no senior military officials and no scientists could carry cell phones. But it never dawned on them to tell the bodyguards not to carry cell phones. And so the Israelis started rocketing the bodyguards and just killed everybody else.
Have you ever killed anybody?
No, thank God. My children asked me that. And I told them very proudly that I have never taken any action that resulted in the death of another human being. There's one kind of half exception. And I think about this all the time. In 1993, I guess it was, I was sitting in the morning meeting. I told you earlier that every unit meets every day at 9 o'clock, and you just talk about what happened in the country that you cover overnight. I was in the morning meeting, and the secretary came in, and she said, John, General Powell is on the phone for you. Call him Powell. And I said, General Powell? How does he know who I am? And she said, I don't know, but he asked for you by name. My boss is like, well, go answer the phone. So I went to my desk, and I said, good morning, General Powell. This is John Kiriakou. And he says, John, if the Iraqis were going to kill the president, who would actually be in charge of that operation? And I said, well, if you're talking about the attempt to kill President Bush, George H.W. Bush, he had been visiting Kuwait. I said, Kuwait operations are run from the Iraqi intelligence service's Basra station, but Basra station is headed by Sabr Abdulaziz Adori, the director of the Iraqi intelligence service. He says, where does he sit? I said, Baghdad. Where exactly in Baghdad? I said, if you hold on a second, I'll look up the address. So I looked it up. I gave him the address. He says, thank you. And he hangs up the phone. I go back in the meeting. They were like, what did he want? I said, he wanted to know about Sabra Dori and the attempt to kill President Bush. I'm like, okay. 8 hours later, we fired 47 cruise missiles into Iraqi intelligence service headquarters. But by then it was the middle of the night in Baghdad, and we killed the janitor. So the next day, I said to my boss, I killed that janitor. And he said, I knew you were going to say that. You didn't kill the janitor. You had no idea what Powell was going to do with the information. I said, I know, but I still feel guilty about it. Other than that, thank God, I never had to do it. I'm not sure how I would sleep at night.
Do the US still assassinate people by the CIA?
Absolutely, yes. When Barack Obama was president, John Brennan, in the first term, was the Deputy National Security Advisor for Counterterrorism, and he started something called the Tuesday Morning Kill List meeting. So it would be Brennan, it would be the National Security Council attorney, somebody from the CIA General Counsel's office, and a representative of the director of the Counterterrorism Center. And every Tuesday morning, they would meet at the White House, come up with a list of people to kill that week. The teams would fan out around the world, kill their targets, and then go back and meet next Tuesday morning.
And are these world leaders, or are they normal people?
No, these are ground level terrorists.
Okay, so it could be someone that appears to be a normal civilian, but is doing something that they don't like.
The law is pretty clear on this. It's supposed to be somebody who poses a clear and present danger to the United States, to an American citizen, or to an American installation.
Which can be quite a vague brief.
See, that's the thing. It sounds like it's clear. It's actually not at all clear. And when they get back from these missions, we just have to take their word for it.
Which spy force around the world did you think was the most impressive?
Oh, the Israelis.
Really?
Yeah. The Israelis have no rules. They'll kill anybody. What was it, 3 years ago? This pager operation?
Oh, it was so fascinating.
Good Lord, it was a work of genius.
It is genius. It is.
It was totally illegal.
Totally illegal.
But it was genius. The moving parts
I didn't believe it was real. I had to I was like, there's no way that this is real. This is the stuff of movies.
It is.
For anyone that doesn't know, what was the story?
Yeah. Okay. So the Israelis knew that Hezbollah, the terrorist group Hezbollah from Lebanon, was communicating using pagers. They didn't want to use cell phones because they didn't want the Israelis to intercept their phone calls. And they thought, oh, pagers, those are safe. So the Israelis bought a company in Hungary, I think it was, that made pagers. And they got Hezbollah to order the pagers from this company. They were able to insert explosives in the pagers. And the pagers went to Taiwan, and from Taiwan to Thailand, and then from Thailand to, I forget where, Syria, I guess, and then from Syria to Lebanon. And so what the Israelis did was they were able to activate the explosives in all the pagers simultaneously.
Killing people?
They killed everybody of any import in Hezbollah. They essentially decapitated Hezbollah. And then the ones they didn't kill in that operation, they bombed the apartment buildings where they lived. See, this is the thing too about the Israelis. If they want to kill you, they won't just do a close-in hit. they'll blow up the entire city block where you live. They'll kill 1,000 people just to get you. And they don't care. And then they say, what are you going to do about it? You're going to go to the International Court of Justice?
Do they really do this?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Did you ever interact with them?
Yes.
And how did you find them to be?
Miserable. My very first briefing that I ever gave as a junior analyst was to the Israelis. My boss said, okay, he says, you're going to give your first classified liaison briefing. So it's going to be the Israelis, and there are a couple things you should know. I said, okay. He said, we don't allow the Israelis into the building. Ever. I said, why not? He said, because they spy on us. Not only do they spy on us, they would always bring gifts. Like, oh, we brought this wonderful gift for you. And every time somebody tries to bring something in, you have to x-ray it. And it's got like listening devices and it's packed with 2 years worth of batteries. We're like, you guys, you have to stop doing this. Every time you come here, you try to bug our conference rooms. It's bad form. You have to stop doing it. And then they're like, oh, okay. We knew you would find it. We're just kidding. Come on. So we have to meet them miles away from headquarters in a place that we rent. So he said, nothing over the secret level, no top secret information, just up to secret. I'm like, okay. So I go with like a dozen analysts. And because I'm the junior most analyst, I've only been on the job at this point, I'm going to say 6 weeks or so, I went last. So the first analyst says, I'm the chief analyst and this is my briefing. And then the next guy says, I'm the political analyst and I'm the econ analyst and I'm the military analyst and I'm the oil analyst and the tech analyst. And it comes to me. So I said, because I was overt at the time, I was not undercover. I said, my name is John Kiriakou and I'm going to brief you on Saddam Hussein's psychological state of mind. Well, there were 2 Israelis there. One was from Mossad and one was from Shin Bet. Shin Bet is the FBI of Israel and Mossad is the CIA of Israel. So the Shin Bet guy, he has his glasses down like this and he goes like this. He says, spell your name. So I spell it, K-I-R, I spell it. And he goes, you are Jewish? I said, don't you dare. I am not recruitable. Don't you dare even try it. I was furious. We went out of the briefing. I was going to explode. Everybody started laughing at me. They're like, they do that to every one of us. Every one of us.
They try and recruit you?
Yeah.
To turn against the United States?
Yeah. On my very first day at the CIA, we got a briefing from the CIA's director of security. And he said that all of us have to have in the very front of our minds the concept of counterintelligence. For example, he said, there's a steakhouse right down the road on Route 123. It's the nearest restaurant to the CIA. He goes, don't ever eat there. Why? Because the KGB thinks we all eat there. So all the customers are KGB officers waiting for CIA people to walk in and start talking about work. Don't ever eat there. I've never eaten there to this day.
Because they're potential Russian spies.
Mm-hmm. So he said, our Israeli friends have 2 officers in their embassy, one from Mossad, one from Shin Bet. The FBI has identified 187 undeclared Israeli intelligence officers spread all across the United States, mostly at defense contractors trying to steal our secrets. Now, we give the Israelis 95% of our defense secrets. You want the F-35? Done. Here's the F-35. You want this advanced missile? Here you go. It's on us. So they steal the remaining 5%.